Well, the Matrix is more than a movie. It's more than a virtual reality where humans are lulled into believing that they have meaningful lives when in reality they're just batteries for machines. It's more than that. Matrices are also used in math. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that today. We're going to get an introduction today. And a matrix is a rectangular array of variables or constants in horizontal rows and vertical columns. And really, honestly, the trickiest part of today is going to be finding some kind of memory way for you to remember that the rows go like this, sideways, and the columns go up and down, or vertical columns. You know, it's kind of easy to remember, like, have you ever seen a picture of the Parthenon?
Yes.
You could do what now? Oh, wait, like this?
Yeah.
Not bad. I like it. Yeah, the Parthenon has giant columns, right?
Yeah.
The columns go up and down. Okay. Rows go sideways. And which one of these comes first? Well, rows comes first. Okay. We'll keep going here. Those are all enclosed in brackets. Like this. Brackets. All right, each entry in a matrix is called an element. So not carbon or phosphorus. I'm talking about element in the sense of an entry in a matrix. It can be a constant, which means it's just a number, right? What's the opposite of a constant? A variable? I don't know if they're... Golly, variable. The dimension of the matrix, right? The dimension of the matrix. You know, how big is your garden? Oh, it's 10 by 12 feet. How big is the basketball court? It's 96 feet by 48 feet or something like that. How big is a football field? It's 120 yards long, including the end zones, and 53 yards wide. So in a matrix, we talk about the dimensions in terms of the number of rows by the number of columns. And it's going to be tricky for you to remember, if you're like me, that rows comes first. So you do the rows first. You do the rows first. What I visualize is someone doing a dance video here. Someone's got to come up with a video. In first period, someone said, if you're in a fire, first you gotta stop and roll. Stop, drop, and rope. Stop, drop, and rope. So I said, great, use your dialect, use your culture, because I would say roll, but you might say roll. I don't know. Which sounds exactly like rope to me. But it sounds to me, if I'm analyzing the situation, I see a cultural advantage that you have, that your dialect pronounces these words very similarly, so you could use a memory trick. That if you're in a fire, first thing you better do is stop, drop, and rope. Someone else said, okay, I said this. I said if you're in a boat in the middle of a perfectly still lake, in order to move, the first thing you need to do is row. Got to row your boat. Not as cool. Not quite as cool. All right, so let's take a look here. Matrices are named by their dimensions. So you might say, I got a 3 by 2 matrix. I got a 2 by 1 matrix. I got a 5 by 8 matrix. That'd be a big one. Well, what did we just notice?
So chemistry is not the only subject.
Well, let's practice this, and this is the initial skill that you need. This definitely is not a problem, but this is the initial skill you need. Name the dimensions of the matrix. So first do the rows.
2 and negative 1.
No. How many rows are there? There's 1, 2, 3 rows
2 columns.
and 2 columns. Remember columns like the Parthenon. It's got these giant columns. They're like 6 feet wide.
Okay.
They go up and down.
1 and 1. So the next one, 1 and 1.
How many rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. How many columns?
No.
It's 1 column.
Okay. Who's it a 1?
How many rows?
2.
Okay, finish the rest.
It'll be hard.
You got 6 problems. I'll give you 6 seconds.
Who want to go first? Well. Oh,
Little Richard.
yeah.
This is good. This is my Friday jam right here. Let's dance. Thumbs up, boy.
Throw 2 to prove.
Come on, 2 to 3. All right, let's see if you get the same thing I do. Let me do these real quick.
Question 4.
Oops.
Can everything happen?
Now, you have to have something that you stop and think to remember which one comes first. You have to have something because even I forget this. You got to have a trick for this. So stop, drop, and roll. Whatever you want to do to remember that you have to do the rows first. And maybe you need to come up with a dance move too because, you go this way first. I don't know what it is. Then you do the column. Y'all, I need a 15-second Instagram video. That's homework tonight.
Hey, listen, so stupid.
That's probably not gonna help. I don't know how that would help. I'm gonna start using Instagram as homework. So you gotta make a 15-second video dancing of your memory trick.
You don't gotta be hard on me. I mean, you gonna make it. You
gotta do the rows first. All right, now for the next section, I'm gonna do this section. We need to start doing this more, but I'm gonna do this section kind of like college. So I'm not gonna write notes down. It's up to you to write the notes. I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna do the problem, but I'm not gonna write. Step 1 is this. I'm not gonna write it. I'm gonna say it, but I'm not gonna write it. Okay. Now, you've solved systems of equations before. You've done this before. In the past, we did this last week. Solve for y, graph them, analyze graph, intersection. So you can still do that to answer these. I mean, you can, by all means, you can still do that. But I'm gonna give you kind of a trick, really. It's a little trick. All right. Notice, first of all, that all of these are in a certain format. They all say x, y constant, x, y constant, x, y constant, x, y constant, x, y constant. They have to be in that form or that order. It's standard form, standard order, where you have the variables on the left-hand side and the constant on the right-hand side. Standard form equation of a line we've talked about before is ax plus by equals c. They have to be in that form. So down here on number 7 and 8, is that in the right order? No. So your first step there would be to reorder them. They need to be in x, y constant order or standard form. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's get into a problem here. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to take our calculator. We need to type in some letters. Hello, Mr. Computer. Activate. There we go. Go away. Okay. First thing you need to type in is R, R, E, F, parentheses. RREF parentheses. There's only one way to remember that when you go on later tonight and tomorrow and Monday when you want to work on this. So if you write it down on your paper. RREF parentheses. What does that stand for? It doesn't really matter. Reduced row echelon form. Doesn't really matter. But what it lets us do is it lets us use a matrix. So let's go pick the matrix button. Start with the format button, which is right here. Press the format button. And it's probably already highlighted on your calculator. It's this jumble of boxes, but we're not going to call it the one with all the boxes. You're going to call it the matrix button.
First thing that comes when I.
So what have we done so far? We did format, matrix. Format, matrix. And look what it's going to ask you. What are the dimensions? That's what it's asking you.
Rows, how many columns?
Well, how many rows and columns is the first one?
Three.
No.
No, 2 columns, 2 rows.
2 by 2.
3 columns.
1, 2,
Oh,
3.
Okay, nothing.
So this is a 2 by 3 matrix. Let me show you again. We got 1 column,
Okay, there you go.
2 columns, 3 columns. Now before you type them in, stop. There are 2 common mistakes that you will make when you type these in. The first one is this: you will forget the negatives.
Instead of minus, put negative.
So for this first box, you're going to put -2. Okay, but we're not there yet, so don't worry. You're going to forget the negatives. These are things you might be writing down. Don't forget the negatives. And don't forget to look for left out terms. Left out terms. In other words, this says x, y, and a constant, but what if there was no y? Like this, like number 8. We'll get to that when we get to it. Those are the 2 common mistakes you'll forget. So let's see what that looks like. We decided this was a 2 by 3 matrix, right? Why do you keep stuff? So 2 rows, 3 columns. Stay okay. And this is what you should look like. RREF. Parentheses. If you forget the parentheses, guess what? Not going to work. RREF. Parentheses. Format. Matrix. This one has 2 rows and 3 columns.
Do we put in X and Y? We don't.
Great question. The first thing you're going to type in here is -2. To get to the next box, you can arrow or you can press tab. Tab is pretty quick. Next up we have -8. Tab. 4. -3. Don't be the person that forgets the negative signs. -2. When you have all of the rows and all of the columns typed in, press enter, and this is what we get. Let's see if we can understand it. So one of our original equations, right, was this. -2x minus 8y equals 4. That's what the answer looks like, right? Okay. Well, your first column is the x column. And what you have to realize is that this is an equation, and what it says is that 1x plus 0y equals 2. In other words, X equals 2. 1x equals 2. X equals 2. 0y means that this one cancels out, right? So the first row is your x. The second row says that 0x and 1y equals -1. You can write your answer like this, or you can write your answer as a point. Because you remember how we would solve these when we graphed them? Graph the two lines, they intersect somewhere, right? And I would say, analyze graph, intersection, and the answer was a point. Do you remember that? The answer still is a point. So you can also write your answer like that. Two ways to write your answer. The first way, you can say x is 2, y is -1. You can also write your answer as a point, because we're still solving a system of equations. In other words, these are still lines. They still intersect at a point, and we're just solving it and finding that point in a different way. RREF, parentheses, format, matrix, how many rows, how many columns, plug them in. Don't forget your negatives. If there's no y, you put a 0. If there's no x, you put a 0. If there's no a, you put a 0 for that column. Press enter, and the answer is always going to be right there. Okay? You'll notice that your answer will always say 1, 0, something, 0, 1, something. And then if there's a third row, it'll be 0, 0, 1, something. Because z equals that one. All right, let's try another one. Let's do one where you do have to reorder them. Oh, wait, let's write our answer first. Y'all already have, but I haven't. So what do you write on your paper? That's it. Okay. Alrighty. Look at number 7. Uh-oh. Number 7, the equations are not in standard form. I needed them to say x, y, constant. So let's reorder them.
Teachers, please pardon this interruption, but this is a message to all of our students. We want you to know that both the first and the second floors are going to be on lock in between classes. Get to class on time, because we're going to round you up. If you're in the hallways after the bell rings, you will get to class on time or you will be suspended. So effective now and every day forward, that's the policy here at Melrose High School. Get to class on time or be suspended. Doors are going to be shut by teachers, and anyone caught after that bell rings again, you will be suspended. We want to make that perfectly clear. Thank you.
What's going to happen on this other equation? Correct. No. Doesn't mean no solution. So you might just have to do some quick manipulation, conversion, put it into standard form. And then guess what? Once again, you have a matrix. Right? -18, -54, -3, -12, 0. So see if you can find that answer. I'll give you about 30 seconds.
Okay,
Yeah. X, Y constant, X, Y constant. Send you a quick poll here. All right.
It's like why I ate.
I don't know. I think I gave you a couple ways to write your answer.
I'm saying just write the answer for why I next or like
I think I gave you a couple ways to write your answer. Pick one. Ooh, Victoria, I don't know. I'm gonna double check what you wrote there. Same thing, Natia.
You good?
What is this?
Only two fruit.
Not feeling that one.
Only two fruit.
Let's take a look at what y'all said.
yeah. There you go. There you go right there. There you go right there.
It's the top. It's the first two.
There you go right there.
Is this one right?
Yeah, there you go right
That's
there.
what I'm supposed to say.
That's me, cuz.
Is this one right?
That's it there. I don't know what that is right there.
What's wrong with this one?
It's not negative.
-4.
Baby, don't worry about it.
-4. What's wrong with this
I
one?
don't know what's wrong with that. What is zero at? Get a zero from.
What about this one?
That's right. It's right, but it is.
Okay. All right, not bad.
It's so easy.
No, don't tell yourself. You shouldn't think when you know how to do something. You shouldn't think, man, this is easy. You should think, yeah, I paid attention. I took good notes. I'm smart. And of course, you should always think, I have a great teacher.
Great mind.
Now, what about these? Let's just talk about the dimensions of this one. What would the dimensions be here?
You have.
Which one comes first?
You got three
I like
rows,
that.
4 columns. 3 rows, 4 columns.
Okay, but what about number 12?
You got
You gotta put it right.
Okay, you got to put it right first.
Put it right.
You only got 4 columns.
How many rows first? How many columns? Wait, what? This one only has 3.
That one got 3.
Those gonna be set to 0.
Here you go, set 0.
So do you say the highest or the lowest? You say the highest number.
Yeah. Oh.
So listen carefully here. In this one, for the X, you'll put 2. For the Y column, what would you put? 0. Z would be -5. The constant is -3. Alrighty, well, let me get out of the way. Let you work. So what?
You put it on 2 to 3.
Same thing, R, R, E, F, parentheses. Yeah, it'll ask you number of rows, number of columns, right? So you'll say 3, 4, and then it'll give you enough boxes. All right, well, yeah, finish it up. I would do a couple of these on the back, 11 through 14, and that way, if you have any questions, you can ask me. But I'm done. Great. Let me answer that question right now. I was going to wait till later, but since you asked, I'll say now. Say you can't, for some reason, you can't quite get done in the next 10 minutes, which you should be able to. On these other ones here, what I want you to do is just draw the boxes yourself. So put R, R, E, F, parentheses, 4 columns. And fill them in for me. No, if you don't get, for whatever you don't get done. When you don't have a calculator. Hopefully you'll get done. So whatever you don't get done in class, kind of recreate the calculator environment. Do the steps you would do on the calculator. All right.